Good? All right, good. I hear sound too. It's a lot of sound. But okay. Welcome everybody to the February 7th, 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. This is for Hamilton, Massachusetts. We have one project in front of us today. So we'll hear from the presenter on that, and then we'll have the public make any comments they need to as we discuss this project. Before we get started, I was alerted that there may be a conflict of interest in some way on my part because I do construction also, and I'm working on a project a couple doors down from this site, about to wrap it up. But I don't feel like there's anything that's pushing me one way or another on how we view this property, because this is kind of it is what it is, and doesn't really affect me at all. So, but I will file the appropriate paperwork with the clerk once we figure out what that is. We have 27 options to go through to figure out which one's right. We'll get it right and get that filed, and so I just want to get that out there. So, I guess we leave it to Mr. Alsop to present to us what is here. Let me read what it is first. The public hearing for this is, an application is for the property owned by Jeffrey Alsop, 11 Blackbrook Drive, Hamilton, for the property located at 25 Gardner Street, 925 Bay Road, 0 Moulton Street, rear, Assessors Map 24, lots 26 and 34. Applicant is seeking a finding under zoning bylaw sections 5.2 and 5.3 to create individual lots for existing non-conforming uses and structures. So, come on up.
So, hi, I'm Jeff.
Can you
Jeff will
go over
need
there
you
to
at
that
the
and
microphone.
get the microphone going?
Yes, I'm Jeff Alsop, and I do reside at 11 Blackbrook Road. I also spend probably as much of my time next door at 587 Bay Road. I own the post office and the property there, and have certainly been before zoning boards in the past doing some of these projects.
Recording in progress.
You're good.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
I don't own the property yet, but we'll hopefully be owning it soon. So just a little technicality there. I think there's a lot of interest in this property generally. It's an iconic property in Hamilton. It's something that we all really enjoy and take advantage of. So I'll start, at least visually. So I'll just start to say really, really quickly that we are buying the whole property. It's something like 57 acres. And this portion of it is a building envelope within a CR that's held by Essex County Greenbelt. So there's also a building envelope a little further to the north, which has the main house and has a pool house, tennis court, and a few other structures. And I just want to really briefly and quickly say that the CR covers all the property, and it's not going to be developed with any structures or even site work other than agriculture and recreation, aside from within the 2 building envelopes. So the rest of the property is fine. We're not subdividing, we're actually dividing it. And so it doesn't fall under subdivision control laws or anything like that. So now we're focused on the corner. And essentially, there are buildings on the corner that are historic, as deemed and as is true. from the, my application to demolish them. So we went to the Historic Commission. They were very strongly of the opinion that the gray house on the corner and the barn should remain.
Recording stopped.
Oop,
Recording in progress.
It's gone.
And so, it's kind of a little bit of a collaboration. I revised the lotting from being two A&R approvable lots, and in which case I wouldn't be standing before you. I'd be going directly to the planning board for sign-offs. But to do that necessitated the demolition of the gray house on the corner and the barn. So in an effort to, and we have applied for, for demolition delay, but this configuration allows those two buildings, on the corner to stay. And part of our sort of agreement is that, the other structures on the property are not historic and not, essentially worth saving.
Salvageable.
So, we're here for creating two lots. They're deficient in, one is deficient in frontage, both are deficient in area. We've made them as conforming as possible. And, essentially we've, tried to create, a lot area that is much more consistent with the rest of the town, and even more consistent than the two adjacent lots. And I do, can I press? Sorry, so. This is actually the A&R plan forthcoming if you approve this. You can see the two lots, maybe one that Bruce is working on now, here. And you can see the scale of trying to make those lots, more conforming. This particular lot, A, when those come down, there will be a new house there, but it will be conforming to setbacks. So how much do you want me to get into the relief that we're asking for? I mean, I have the
Well-
calculations for square footages and.
Yeah, we have all that, so we know that, one lot A is 23.8, and lot B is 24.3, 24,300 square feet. So they're more than half what's required for the R1B. I'm looking at this little plan here. I was wondering what's the limit of building envelope 1? What is that? What's that referring to?
That is, that's referring to the CR. So the CR, has set up these two
The
buildings.
CR is what?
Conservation restriction running to Essex County Greenbelt.
Okay.
So within the entire property, there are two building envelopes that are established for, for development and construction and uses.
So this space behind there is in the CR,
Correct.
and is that on that plan?
It is. But it is not it's not a setback. You can build right to that.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just wondering what the breadth of it is.
Oh, by the way, I didn't introduce Philip Blake. Sorry, Philip. Philip is my counsel, too, so if there's
Okay.
any, questions that he feels he can answer, he's welcome to. So what is your question?
Well, just what is
The
Well, I was
distance-
curious about that, what that line on this little plan showed, and then,
This one here?
yeah, that one.
Yeah, so that's defined and actually recorded as a, delineation where the conservation restriction doesn't apply.
Okay. And what's the circle that kind of comes out of Lot A? Yeah,
That's-
that one. What's that?
It's just a note. It's a
Oh,
engineer's graphic for,
what's happening in
it's a
there?
detail, and basically shows an iron rod.
Oh. So it's not, okay.
Do you have copies of that?
To leave with you?
Or just to look at?
Yeah, sure.
We didn't
Look at it a
get
little
those in our.
Yeah, we didn't see that in our, we just got the A and B and the rest, so.
Sure.
I know in your application you mentioned, where was it? These other lots, so I was kind of curious as to what those are. Where was it? C, D, and E, lot C, D, and E.
So those are lots that are not subject to review tonight. It's the division of, A&R. So those are just, it's basically, aside from the building envelope 2. So
Okay.
two lots here, and then these are just divisions of open space that's subject to the CR.
So future plans.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's a rough plan,
Rough
like,
plans.
yeah, what,
I'll jump in here. I think
Hey, Phil,
the components of the plan
Could
don't
you-
require, sorry.
yeah, come on up, yeah.
We'll share the podium together, Jeff.
Sure.
The other components of the other lots don't require any relief, which is why they're not being discussed tonight. But the idea is to show you, unfortunately, this plan had not been finalized when the application was submitted. And I think you do have individual copies, like 5 by 8 or, 5
Yeah.
8 by 11.
We can get
So
that.
we'll give you copies of that. But, and then just to go to the first question, there's a conservation restriction on the property with basically 2 carve-out areas. One being back here where the big house is. And then, so you can see that there, that's where the driveway comes in, the pond is here. And that allows for, structures to be built within that area and within that area. Currently, there's one principal residence here, plus a tennis court, a barn, and some outbuildings, like a sports building. And then here are the 2 existing residences. And this would be, in some context, like a 81P type of division of 2 existing structures on a lot that predates zoning. This one's kind of a little bit of an odd history because it was, these houses have been there a very long time, but they were bought and then combined with essentially the main property. And the result is that we have 3 residences on one lot.
Yeah.
One of them a 2-family, where, typically we only have 1 residence per lot. So part of the relief here, part of what this application does is to cure that by putting each residence on its own lot. I don't know if that answers your questions.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
Jeff or Phil, in the application, I don't know, I don't have the original in front of me, but typically it's signed by either the applicant, but more usually the owner, and I don't see that.
I think we could solve that tonight.
Probably 2 ways,
The owners are present, so.
Okay.
I didn't pick up on that. It looked like
Okay.
the applicant was able to sign it,
All right.
which it is signed by the applicant.
Do you guys have any
I'm just
questions,
going,
concerns?
just for clarification, so we are currently making a decision on a piece of property that you don't yet own, that you intend to buy, based on the decision, that what will determine based on the decision that we make tonight? Is that how this is working?
The lot configuration is,
Is what's gonna determine the purchase?
no, not necessarily, it's just that this will no longer apply.
Okay.
You know, if you decide, if the board decides not to approve, you know, this plan with two non-conforming, then we would be going to two conforming.
Right. So the question is, does that put us in a legal pickle if something were to happen and we were involved in the end result decision because the deal with them was not done?
I'm not a lawyer.
Well, that's.
Don't know that.
That's a question I think we should discuss with, that needs to be brought up to city's legal
To
counsel.
council.
Because I'm not saying you would, but what if? If something happens, you find something on the property you don't like. Now, because we were making the decision based off of a tentative deal, which then would go through based off of our decision, then are we culpable for anything that happens? You're putting us in a kind of a, you know, if we don't vote it and then something goes wrong, where do we land? Because you're asking us to make a decision on a piece of property you don't own yet. So I don't feel comfortable making a decision on that without our legal counsel advising.
Yeah, I think I can answer it, and Patrick Ruffett maybe can sort of confirm this, but we have an anti-SLAPP statute that sort of stops people from suing each other based on public participation, and likewise boards. If you make a decision that, based on the statutory and regulatory environment, we don't think is appropriate, we can appeal that. There's a process for that. But I think you're protected by statute from us stepping in and saying, you know, that resulted in a contract not going through, and therefore we're suing you for damages, which is what I think I'm hearing you suggest.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want you voting for this because you're afraid that not voting for it is going to cause you a problem. I think what we're doing here, frankly, brings us more in conformance with the zoning ordinance. It's a good outcome. You've got 3 homes on 1 lot. That's just fundamentally not how things are supposed to be set up, and we're going to address that and also decrease the nonconformities that exist for one of the structures.
That I understand.
Right. And
I'm just talking about the current fact that there's still a pending contract, which is subject to our decision. But it's public record. It's now been recorded. We brought up the question. You gave us a legal answer as a council.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel safe on that to make a decision pending that?
I do feel
Yeah.
safe moving forward.
All right, moving forward.
Okay.
Got anything?
Even, do you have anything?
I'm curious about the scale of the eventual nonconformities, like the actual size of the eventual building circle. Frontage, it seems like I could calculate the frontage here. But I
It's
don't-
on the, it's on the little chart.
Yeah, there's a chart.
Oh, that has
And I
the,
went and grabbed it because
oh, there it is,
I'm
proposed,
of a
yep.
certain age where I can't read it either. But you should be able to see it there, but, you know, we have no current front yard setback for the 2-family, and that's going to remain the same, right? So the initial proposal, again, was to demolish that structure and rebuild it so it met setback conformities. But the plan that would allow that, the plan that would allow the creation of 2 conforming lots required the barn and the house to be taken down.
Yep.
And so at a meeting, you know, in January, the Historic District Commission preferred that not happen. So that's where this plan comes from. And so that stays the same. Side yard setback, again, we've got not applicable for Lot A. It's going to go to 16 feet. So it's,
Yep.
you know, and so you could just read through and see
Yeah,
where.
yeah. And I could calculate the circle if I needed to.
And the circle doesn't fit.
Yeah,
so
no,
that's-
yeah.
that's-
Doesn't fit, yeah, it's not
that's
big
out.
enough, but.
But it's a little bit of an oddity, because that circle was not a requirement of the bylaw when these homes were built a
Oh,
long
yeah,
time
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
So we're just
They had
essentially
bylaws then.
continuing, we're continuing, I guess that nonconformity.
Yep.
All right, well, we have a
But
bunch
the
of-
new structure is going to be within the setbacks all around
Right, lot A will be
of
rebuilt.
Lot A as it's drawn now.
I'm thinking of this partially because the Lot A, the line between the lots is drawn in such a way to try to maximize the frontage for Lot A, or try to maximize it, which would mean that the circle being 90% of that, I'm wondering how the actual calculated circle would fit into that lot, considering that the lot narrows toward the back. So if there would be room for a circle based on the frontage to actually fit inside the lot.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, yeah.
And you're right, that was to maximize that frontage, but
Yeah.
also create the appropriate side yard setbacks for the house. So there's two functions to that one.
Okay. It's kind of forced by saving the other houses.
Sorry.
It's all sort of driven by preserving the other
Yes.
structures.
We got a lot of people here. Do we want to?
Yeah, so I guess the next person, if anybody from the Hamilton Historic Commission wants to say anything, I believe they're going to show up. Don't know who you are, but come on up, state your name, and tell us your side of the story.
I'm Scott Clements, 24 Meyer Lane. I'm the chair of the Hamilton Historic District Commission. And our concern with these two lots is related to the preservation of a couple of very old and we think important to the town's visual characteristics. That would be the gray house and the barn. The gray house is a very unusual, on its original foundation, early 18th century structure. Doesn't necessarily show from, later sightings done to it, but it's the structure itself with the foundation is rather rare. Most houses of that period have been moved. So there's a visual and historic value to it. And what happened is this plan was submitted to the Historic District Commission under because of the request for demolition and because the structures fell within our purview. And we voted to invoke the demolition delay bylaw to prevent the gray house and the barn from being torn down. So that's how strong, we've never done that before, and that's how strongly we felt about these two structures. So what happened after that is Jeff came back and submitted a new plan, which is the one that's before you tonight, which is non-conforming, but achieves the goal of creating the two lots that he needs, as well as preserving the structures. And so we felt in favor of this plan. The two smaller structures are not within our purview. They're later, and so we have no say over whether those remain or whether they're demolished. But the two older structures we do, and we did invoke that. And so what we were hoping is that whether it's this plan or whatever plan is worked out, that the way these lots are subdivided, it's done in such a way that the two historic structures can remain and not be subject to demolition. So the preservation of the structures for the benefit of the town, their historic value, their age, just the visual value of them. It's kind of that conglomeration of buildings, that assembly of buildings. It's kind of unique to New England. You've got the late 1880s barn, you've got the early 1700s farmhouse. You don't get that anywhere else, and it's very visible. It's at a main, you see it coming up and down Bay Road. It's very prominent, and we feel therefore important for the character, preserving the character of Hamilton. So we're hoping that whatever is discussed tonight, that you look favorably on some form of non-conforming lot that allows these structures to be preserved.
So you're happy with the proposed plan to keep the lots that he presented tonight?
Yes, we were satisfied with that.
Okay.
So we could recommend that, If there was another configuration that kept the two houses, we would support that too. Our interest is in preserving these structures.
Scott, you might want to mention it's a demolition delay bylaw.
Yes, and that is, thank you, Liz.
The commission makes a determination that they should be preferably preserved, and that lasts for a year.
Yes, that only lasts for a year. And so we have this year window of opportunity to work with Jeff, assuming he's going to be developing the lots, to preserve these structures. Otherwise, after that, the delay goes away and these structures will, could be torn down, and we would have no say over that.
Yeah.
Not in a historic district.
Yes, if it was in the historic district, yeah, it's a little different. But
This is not historic district?
no, it's not, but the
not,
Historic Commission has authority over any structure built pre-1940 in the town. So if there's demolition or substantive change over 50% of the exterior of the structure, then the Historic District Commission can activate the demolition delay bylaw.
Okay.
So, and like I said, we've never done that before, but we did it in this case because we feel strongly about preserving these structures.
Does the Historic Commission maintain any authority over the building after this to regulate changes to the structure in the future?
Any change that modifies 50% or more of the exterior visible structure, yes, we do.
So he could retcon the whole inside if you wanted.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't have that. There's some period stuff inside. But this kind of house is going to be marketed towards someone who likes the older things, and so it's a different animal, I think.
My mother has a place on Beacon Hill, trust me, I know.
Okay.
So do you know, just out of curiosity, the connection of these properties to the main house, I guess you'd call it, on the other?
Well, the
parcel?
main
How all
house is-
that kind of came together as it into
The main
one
house
lot?
is significant. How the lots were combined, I don't know. I've looked at the old plans, and these lots have had 3 different configurations since the 18th century in terms of the property. I went back and looked at some old assessor's maps and some old fire maps, and these property boundaries are not the same as they've always been. They've changed. We did identify that in 1910, the house and the barn were there. The house is clearly there in the earliest map that shows houses, which is 1850, I believe it is. And we know from having examined the house in person that the house is an early colonial period house, first quarter of the 18th century, probably.
So the original plan that was brought to you does have 2 conforming lots in it?
It has 2 conforming lots, but that requires a line to be drawn straight through the corner of the main house and through the barn, necessitating the demolition of both.
Okay.
I'm
And
just
that back lot that back lot line would have been pushed back further too, to make it a 40.
Yeah, and
1,000
the
square foot
shape of the lots
property.
was less square, for lack of a better term. It was, they were a more unusual shape. They were conforming, but their shapes were not as regular. I think from a land planning point of view, this makes more sense. It's just it's non-conforming, and so that comes within your purview, whether that's acceptable to approve.
That was my question. How do we get 2 40,000 square foot lots out of 50,000 square feet of?
That's not, I'm here for the preserve the houses, so
Yeah,
any
no,
of
that's
those other questions.
No, that's my question about the original
Yeah.
plan. I just wanted to make sure that the two original lots in the original plan were conforming.
We were informed that they were conforming. We didn't
Yep.
double check that because, again, our purview is the
Yes, yeah.
preservation.
That's
of the
my general
structures.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wilson.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
if there's no other questions, I'm gonna,
No.
okay, thank
Yeah, no, I
you.
think it's good. Thank you.
There's a lot.
I did bring something along if you wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Information
Never,
is read here.
yeah, I'll never say no to more information.
Last page. This was the application and narrative for the
That's the original
historic.
one? Yeah.
So that was the original plan.
It's an odd shape. I got one like that behind my house. Okay. All right, any comments on that, on what you see? The original plan?
No, nothing.
Yeah, it's just, it's a weird,
It has some other disadvantages, but I will also
Yeah.
add. Confused ownership of the CR, you know, that fence lines could, you know, be put in by right and, you know, certain things like that, but
okay.
I think the experience that we had in applying with, you know, the demolition bylaw and dealing with the commission and you know, we had our public hearings there too. So, you know, 25 people were on Zoom and, you know, it had a pretty good audience and there were also people very dear and close to me that didn't want the building gone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we're good with it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Any more questions, or
don't know,
we hear from the?
We have a few more people. I don't know if anyone else wants to talk.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. You know, if anybody from the public would like to come say something? Yep, please. State your name.
62 Gardner Street. I'm missing the concept of why these can't be 40,000 square foot lots. Did you have a picture there, a plan that showed that, in that packet that you just gave? Because I'm looking at that plan over there, and to me, it seems like if you move the easterly lot line over, you can make it of two 40,000 square foot lots. Can somebody explain to me could you, Jeff, explain to me? So if you were to move this over,
That is actually what. the
that you just
original-
passed out?
Yeah, I have another one for you.
So, I mean, that seems that would take away one layer of problem. Okay. So, okay,
Is this what you're saying?
right, and that's not really acceptable, or?
Well, the presentation is that
You-
this, see that property line?
Okay,
That takes out the gray building.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but could you do something like, you know, keep this line here and then just push those over?
Well,
I'm just asking questions.
well, I guess what I'd say is, you know, this line here
Right,
is basically the tree line along the field.
okay,
So if you come out any further into the field, now you're creating lots that are, you know, owned by someone else that would be managed. The potential is that someone that fences off the field, and, you know, things like the blessing of the hounds and, you know, whatever, it would really change the look.
okay,
So,
All right.
that's really the reason.
okay. And my other question about this drawing here is, generally, when, in the past, I've seen A&R subdivision plans at the Registry of Deeds. My background is in land surveying, and they go through the permit process and they get accepted, and they wind up getting on file with land transfers. My question is why you have not shown on the easterly side of the envelope line the conservation restriction in that area. Because to me, somebody doing research at the registry or coming across this in the land transfer, when they go to buy A or B, they would see, oh, we have not an envelope line, but we have a conservation easement line.
So I can answer that. This is a plan for the ZBA that would be attached to your decision as a, you know, an exhibit.
Yeah.
So it's
So it
not,
won't make it to the registry?
no.
Okay,
So the A&R plan is a different plan.
okay, that was my question. Thank you.
It would probably make it to the registry, but just only as an exhibit. It would make it to the registry, but only as an exhibit.
Okay.
Right. And then-
All right. Anybody else?
Yep, one up.
Hi, I'm Beth McLeod. I live on 4 Bancroft Way. I have a question. I was wondering if you could clarify what is meant by the conservation restriction in terms of the remaining property, the open field. You mentioned the blessing of the hounds. It wasn't really, I mean, we couldn't see what you were explaining to the board here. And it would be, and I can't read this because I'm too old. But I think if you could maybe show us, exactly what is happening here, because it's bigger. And also, if you could clarify what is meant by the conservation restriction. That means there's to be no development on that parcel of land that's subject to that?
Yeah, generally it goes on, it's fairly extensive, but the conservation restriction created 2 building envelopes. And you can see this is the line for the building envelope number 1, and down here is the envelope around building envelope 2. The rest of it allows it to be divided, but doesn't allow it to be built on. So you have some limited agricultural use and agricultural buildings, things like that, but no residential.
Actually, no agricultural buildings
Yeah,
either.
no building. And then, for example, the lots that contain this building envelope, there obviously is construction and could be reconstruction within that building envelope. But this proposed lot E over here, there is no building envelope. So even though there's 5 lots showing on this plan, the maximum of structures you could have, based on the lots are 4. This, even though there's 5 lots, there's existing house, and existing structures. This is just to create a lot. So it likely would be combined with another adjacent lot and remain undevelopable. And the conservation restriction, just to go to the last question, it carries through the title. So anyone buying this property, any of these properties, are always going to see the conservation restriction because it's part of what you buy. It's part of the title. If that helps?
Yeah, and so that means that these can never be developed, they can't be built upon.
You can't build in any area outside the 2 building envelopes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as you can see, there's, structures within the existing building envelopes.
Okay. So,
And the CR language is recorded, and it's a document that I'd be happy to send you. It's.
okay.
Oh, you got it.
Great. So I know in the past there was, I don't know what association it was it there was an easement, when Mrs. Sears had the property, she allowed people to ride horses and walk through there. But that's not something that's covered by this conservation restriction. That doesn't allow the public to use that as a corridor for
Yeah,
trails.
There's an ECTA easement that goes
ECTA, that's it.
over the property, and it's sort of a variable. It's not pinned down with meets and bounds and monuments, but it's being used. People do use it. They perhaps are using it in the right location, perhaps not in the right location, but that is of record, like that conservation restriction. It goes with the land. So nothing that we do on the permitting front changes the private property rights that already exist. One of those being conservation restriction, another being trail easement in favor of ECTA.
So the trail easement is still in effect?
It's there now and it will remain there.
Okay, because I was under the impression when my daughter was walking through that it was no longer in effect. I think you had spoken with her when she was out. Was she in the wrong
Well, she
section of
was
the
in the
property?
wrong section of the property.
Okay, all right. So we have, that's the part I'd like to understand. What part of the property
Yeah,
is
there's
it that we
addition-
can actually walk on?
Yeah,
Because we-
there's additional property outside over here that
Okay.
formerly was part owned by the Sears family and no longer is owned by the Sears family.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
it's separate from 25, what's known as 25 Gardner, which has several
Okay, okay.
If that helps. So once you get
I'll talk to you. We could clear.
Yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about, the hill.
I'm next door.
Okay.
from the pond,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, it
Past
runs,
the pond.
parallel to that property line.
Right.
And then turns right at the paddock.
4.3 acres.
It's all right.
Oh, the land you're talking about?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's over that.
It's over there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta grab it.
that copy of that.
Potentially didn't bring it.
So this is all conservation restriction.
Yep.
They can't build on this.
Correct.
We have this lot here. Built on.
Cannot be built on except within the. So this is restricted.
That's restricted too. And this is restricted.
That's restricted. And it wraps around entirely. Well, no. They want to have those.
Don't want me to hold up again?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a plan that shows what's buildable, what's not.
I just wanted to see
Oh, it is visually.
what
you know,
Bruce is looking at while he's
color-wise,
asking
but-
questions, that's all.
If you see the cut sheets,
I got an
I
idea.
mean, it's 57 acres.
Yeah,
Oh, I know, it's a lot.
I get what you're all doing. I understand their concern.
Yeah.
I get what you're doing. I understand Historic Beverly's concern. I got it.
Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to,
Anyone else?
anybody else up for talking?
Bueller? All right.
Okay, I guess we're good. Anybody in Zoom world
Yeah.
want to chime in? Forget about those people.
No one on Zoom?
I guess there's no one on Zoom. You want to?
Oh,
Sure, come on up.
I'm Tom Sears, I live at 141 Gardner Street. And concerning the historic value of the buildings, especially the two residence building on the corner is a real eyesore, historic or not. It's also a danger to live in because cars have either gone through the front door or knocked down the stone wall. And every system in the building needs to be upgraded, probably including fire exits. And there's no historic likability about that house that needs to be there. And Hamilton would look better without it.
Anybody else? Okay, do you guys have any further comments or questions?
No, I think pretty solid for decision.
Good. Yeah, okay. I guess at this point, we've heard everything. Everybody's said what they want to say. Nobody on Zoom. So I guess I hear a motion to vote on this project as delivered, creating these two smaller lots, Lot A and Lot B, that are non-conforming, but less non-conforming than they are in their existing state now. And we're also, allowing the preservation of the historic house. And I know sometimes historic houses are tough because to make them to code as they are, as the codes are today, it's very tricky, but I guess deal with that as it as you have to, is go down the road with that one. So, you hear a motion to vote on this?
I motion to allow the request based on the preservation of the historic buildings that was presented and the explanation of the easements and everything that people had questions on.
I second that motion.
Okay. Okay, let's do a roll call vote on that. David Parenchief?
Aye.
Aye. Stephen?
Aye.
Roshan? Okay, aye. Myself, aye. So, this has been approved by our board. You'll obviously know you're going to be going to the planning board for future developments. That's going to be another thing, won't be in our basket. So I have 14 days to write the decision, and then 20 days for any appeals from the public. And after that, you can move on to the next step.
Right. Well, thank you
All
very
right.
much for your
I think that's it.
consideration.
The board,
Oh, for you to draft the decision? Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
We
Anything to help?
We kind of used it for our presentation, actually, so that we could, go along the
Let's go right down the line with it, yeah.
line.
Line item, yeah. Yep. Okay. Great, I don't think we have anything else to discuss this evening.
No minutes to?
No minutes. I didn't see any. Haven't been here for a while, so. Yeah, we're all set. So a motion to close this meeting?
I motion to close the meeting.
Second? All right. We are done for tonight. See you next time.
So, 62.
All right.